Welcome to Victory Monday, Steelers Nation. Back at 3-0 for the first time since we had number 7 under center. So let's take a look at the game, break it down like I normally do: offense, defense, special teams, and then, oopsie, sorry, I turned the camera there a little bit too much. Then just kind of my overall thoughts at the end. So we got offensively, Justin Fields is firmly entrenched as QB1, I'd say. The first few games were rough. He had small stat numbers, low stat lines. But they've progressively opened up the playbook a little bit more, giving him more options and things like that. And then this game, 25 of 32 for 245, a touchdown and a pick. What can you say? He went over the middle of the field finally. If you look at the passing charts from the first few games, a lot of outside routes and things like that. But he hit some big throws down the middle. Obviously 25 of 32, that's a hell of a completion percentage. And unlike the first few games, it wasn't just a smattering of George Pickens with a handful of tosses to the other guys. We got the ball, we moved it around the yard. Kellen Austin with 4 receptions. He got a touchdown grab. Beautiful ball by Fields from that. Looked off the safety, held him there, caught him in the middle. Then Kelvin Austin did it from there. 55-yard touchdown there. Pickens had 5 catches. Pat had 4. Scotty Miller coming in with 2. And then as far as the receiving core goes, everything looked good. Van Jefferson did go down with an eye injury. My understanding is he came back during that game. During the game, I didn't get to watch much of it, mostly just highlights. But then as far as the running game goes, pretty pedestrian for the first 3 quarters. The offensive line did well. We didn't have a lot of big penalties, especially with the makeshift line out there. But then on the fourth quarter, we leaned on them. We had a 6-minute drive that we just basically killed the game at the end, which is something this team has not done in a long time. I'd say ever since Ben was under center back in those days, just to lean on a team and shut down a game, which is nice to see, with Kenny out there the last few years, or Mitch Trubisky. Even with a lead, we couldn't just lean on a team offensively and shut them down. But that was big. We went a lot of jumbo package. Mason McCormick was getting some playing time at the extra tackle spot, so that was nice to see, especially with the offensive line as in shambles as it is, with Samalo out, as well as Fontenot. He'll be out for the year now, so looks like we'll see what happens with them as we go across the year. But those are the individual offensive numbers. Let me just look at the team comparison here. Nothing too big jumps out. Just going to kind of touch on that one pick of Fields. It wasn't really his fault. He had the injury to Van Jefferson, so Patterson saw a lot of time at receiver, which hasn't done that in a long time. Primarily as a receiver, obviously coming out of the backfield, and it was just a tight window that Justin tried to fit it into. Ball got knocked up in the air, and it wasn't really on him. It wasn't one of his ugly Chicago Day picks, so I can live with that. But time of possession dominated 7 minutes, 33-51 for us, 26-09 for them. So we held onto the ball pretty well. Defensively, what can I say besides another amazing game out of the squad? 3 games on the year. I know it's against subpar teams, but you look at what those other teams are doing now. Atlanta, went into Philly last week and beat Philly. Hung tough with Kansas City this week, so that doesn't look like so much as a one-off win. Denver, their first 2 games against us, and then I don't remember who they played week 1, looked rough, but then they came out this week and beat Tampa. So we're averaging 8.1 points per game, I think, given up. And even the 2 touchdowns that we've given up were kind of just miscommunications, where in Atlanta, the one should have been a turnover. They called a bogus offsides on TJ. And then this game, I don't know who the receiver was that caught the touchdown, but he just got free in the secondary, just blown coverage. No turnovers this game, which this is the first time we've lost a turnover battle in a long time. But we came out on top. The one turnover that we had on offense was in our end, so the defense held there with that. As far as the rushing attack. They came in averaging 190 yards per game. I think we held them to about 60 this game. Cam Hayward was huge, big guy, stuffs up the middle. You're not going to see a lot of numbers in the box for the rest of the guys. Keanu Benton was big. Loudermilk was big inside. As far as the outside game goes, the pass rush, we had 5 sacks, I want to say. Cam had one. TJ had one. Eldon Roberts had the one that knocked Herbert out of the game. I don't think he should have been playing to begin with a high ankle sprain, but he played for 3 quarters until Herbig came down, or not Herbig, until Roberts came down on him weird and rolled the ankle again. Got Herbig on my mind because he came in big for an injured Alex Highsmith, who went down with a groin injury, which is going to be rough. I doubt he'll be back next week. Groins are hard to recover, especially at that outside rushing position. 2 years ago, TJ, I think, missed 5 to 6 games with one, maybe more. But Herbig was big, you know. They call him the little TJ clone, and both those guys can scoot around the edge. You know, TJ's getting double teamed over there, so he took advantage of the single coverage on his side and had 2 sacks, a couple big tackles. But we're going to be thin at that position now because our main backup is going to be DeMarvin Leal, who's generally an inside guy, but we'll see what happens out there. As long as the groin injury recovers quickly, I don't see us making any big moves, but you know, we could always be looking for a depth spot there as well. All right, on to special teams now. I'll start with Corliss Waitman. He's come in the last 2 weeks when Cameron Johnston went down, and he's been phenomenal. I think last game he averaged 52 a kick, and this game he averaged 52 with 3 kicks. So nothing really more you can ask of him there. Looks like he got one inside the 20, but you know, other than that, it's a lot better than Presley Harvin was over the last few years. So we'll take that. As far as returns go, nothing spectacular. No kick returns. I'd like to see Patterson maybe get a chance at that, but looks like we're just going to be taking the ball at the 30 if we can get it there. Austin had 2 punt returns for 10 yards for a 10-yard average, so nothing too spectacular. Boz, 2 for 3 on the day. The one miss, I mean, it shouldn't have been that long. There's a pass to Pat to get him a little bit closer there at the end of the quarter, but they tried a 62-yarder. Nobody's ever hit a 62-yarder at Heinz or Acrisure. I think the longest there, maybe Bosch has a 55 to 58, somewhere around there is the longest in that stadium. So just give him a try at 62. It was a rough go. It looked like it had the distance. It was just a little to the right. So that's as far as the special teams in a nutshell. Nothing too big to report there. No injuries or anything like that. Everybody held up. So as far as overall, you know, the defense came out big, like they needed to. They held the rushing game in check a lot better than what they had. You know, it helps that Greg Roman is on the other side of the field. From his days in Baltimore to now, I guess, in San Diego or Los Angeles. Terrell Austin has basically owned him. They haven't really done much of anything against him. They always had big rushing attacks in Baltimore, and we stifled them. And then he's had a big rushing attack the first couple weeks here in San Diego, and we stifled that as well. So I think it's just the defense, Tomlin and Austin have Roman's number. And then offensively, there's nothing more that I can really say other than what I've already covered, but it looks like we're rounded into shape. The calls for finding another second option, I don't really think we need to do that right now. If something's available and we can get something on the cheap, sure, go ahead, add a second guy, but everybody's getting the ball now. We're opening the playbook. Justin's looking good. I don't think we go back to Russell. Not that we ever really went to Russell. He had 2 drives in the preseason and just kind of anointed the starter. As long as Justin plays well, you keep him in there. Hopefully Tomlin will continue his adage, don't change the hot hand, that he's had his entire career. Kind of cost us Kenny Pickett at the end of his career here in Pittsburgh when he stuck with Mason, but I hope he sticks with Justin. You know, the talks were that Russell would be ready this week. Week 4, obviously, against the Colts. But I think you got to stay with the hot hand, especially with the hot game that he had. Big game Justin. We're going to call him here in Pittsburgh from now on. that'll do it for this recap. 3-0, baby. 2020 was the last time we were this good. I'm going to hear it a lot. You're going to hear a lot about the week schedule and whatnot. Same kind of stuff we went through in 2020. But, we'll see what happens with this young team. We got a young offense and an experienced defense. And it's a lot different than that 2020 team, in my opinion. So hopefully we can continue to build. And then once our back half of the schedule gets heavy, we're ready to hit back against those tough teams. On to Indy.